This video will be on topics 4, 5, and 6 of Unit 2, Ecological Tolerance, Natural Disruptions to Ecosystems, and Adaptation. Basics. Every organism has an ideal set of conditions that they thrive under, and this is true for individuals or for species. The further away you get from those ideal conditions, the harder that life becomes. We can have disturbances in ecosystems, and they can take on many different forms, which we'll look at. Some are predictable and others are random, and conditions on Earth have fluctuated considerably over the past 4.5 billion years. These changes have led to shifts in the dominant species on the planet. So let's take a look at ecological tolerance. The concept boils down to every living things have ideal conditions that they thrive in. These are things like temperature, salinity, humidity, sunlight, precipitation, depending if you're a plant or if you're an animal. Think about it. We have a certain temperature that we like to live in. As conditions vary away from that ideal setting, organisms can become more stressed, leading to an exodus from that area, injury, or even death. So if we look at this graph, the amount of population, most of the population, if we look at the left axis, will live in a zone of optimal, minimal stress. Think about it in terms of humans and temperatures. There's an ideal temperature that we like. We like 65 to 75 degrees, and we can extend upon that. If we start to get much colder, if we start getting down into very cold temperatures or very warm temperatures, we can't stay in them for a long time. So we start getting to those freezing temperatures. We have to dress warmer, but eventually we have to warm up. And we can get to a zone of intolerance where it's either too cold or too hot. And this is true for many different variables for all species. In ecological disturbance, nature exists in a balance, and if left undisturbed, the abiotic and biotic, so the living and the non-living factors, will settle into a stable relationship. This is how a species develops an ecological tolerance, and anything that upsets that is called a disturbance. And there can be natural disturbances or man-made disturbances. So for natural disturbances, some important ideas is that disturbances are not necessarily bad, and often they can help to promote diversity in the long run. And just because they're natural doesn't mean they cannot be as bad or worse than human-made disturbances. Okay, think about the extinction of the dinosaurs. Definitely not man-made, and definitely a large disturbance. Scale is key. So when considering a natural disturbance, the scale at which we examine them is very important. So how much time? Are they short and fast? Things like fires, hurricanes, avalanches, tornadoes, cosmic impact, or are they long and slow, such as climate change? And are they the size? Is it a tree falling down in a forest? Is it a tornado over a localized area? Or is it a planet-wide extinction event? So things that we want to think about is periodic. So some change that occurs at a regular interval. So seasons changing is one. Are they episodic, which is similar to periodic, but not as regular, so more irregular intervals. So things like El Nino, which is every 4 to 7 years, or wildfire. Are they random, totally random event, and it may not happen again. Climate change, the Earth's climate's not fixed. It's changed quite a bit over geological time. Shift in the global climate can lead to significant changes to the biosphere. So new climate regimes lead up to large-scale habitat changes, which can open up new possibilities for life. So if we have changes in glacial ice, which is going to lead to changes in sea level. If there's more ice, the seas are going to be lower, and there'll be more terrestrial, more land habitat. If there's less ice, there's higher seas and more ocean habitat. Species experience these changes have 3 options. You can either adapt, you can migrate, move out of the way, or you can die. For adaptation, any kind of disturbance will stress the species living in the impacted ecosystem. Adaptation to these disturbances is how species survive and deal with these disturbances. You can adapt in 2 different ways, biological, structural, or behavioral. Adaptation can be experienced at the individual level. You can't have it at the individual levels, but it's a slow genetic change that can take thousands of years and many generations to take shape. Any disturbance, short-term or long-term, can threaten a species' survival if it cannot adapt. However, rapid changes are much harder to adapt to. Slower changes are easier. Migration is the movement of species from one location to another. Multiple reasons for this movement. Scale dependent. Short term tends to be seasonal. They follow the growing season, maximize resource availability. So we think of the migration of the wildebeest, which is being shown here. That was an awesome thing that I got to see. Snow geese, monarch butterflies, all move to follow food sources. Long term, these are more permanent changes in address, often the result of a large-scale significant habitat change. So the shift in forest makeup after a glacial retreat. Extinction is normal. If a species cannot adapt or change or migrate away to more favorable conditions, it goes extinct. Change could be from a disturbance or from a new competitor. 99% of all things that ever lived are now extinct. That's a crazy thing to think about. Under normal conditions, each major life group, mammals, amphibians, fungi, have a background rate of extinction. It's natural for things to become extinct. For example, birds, there should be extinction one bird species every 400 years. Mass extinction is when 75% or more of all species go extinct in a short period of time. Keep in mind that short in geologic time and could mean anything up to 3 million years. Okay, so we have to keep that into account. Mass extinction events are rare and occur only after significant global changes to the biosphere. There's been 5 historic mass extinction events, but evidence suggests that we are currently living through a 6th mass extinction. We are having extinction rates on our planet at much higher than the background rate. And so we are currently living through a 6th mass extinction, exclusively caused by one particular species, which is us. Not all doom and gloom. Mass extinction events lead to adaptive radiation. Occurs when surviving or newly arrived species diversify and fill in the available niches, leading to new speciation events. So if we have organisms that are becoming extinct, their niches are now available to new organisms. And so as the dinosaurs became extinct, it left a lot of room for the mammals and the birds and the crocodiles. Adaptation doesn't just happen after a mass extinction event. Disturbances or immigration to no uncolonized area can also trigger adaptive radiation. So to recap, ecological tolerance refers to the range of conditions a species or individual thrives under. It's the Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold, just right. The disturbance refers to anything that disrupts the balance of the existing ecosystem, very scale dependent. Natural disturbances can be just as bad as man-made ones. Climate change represents the most important long-term ecological disturbance. Species facing these changes have 3 options: adapt, migrate, or die. Extinction is normal and necessary to maintain biodiversity.